Steve Bannon. Now that he is out of the West Wing of the White House, there are reports that he may start leaning on the GOP establishment from his perch at Breitbart. Come in, Congressman Louie Gohmert, Republican from Texas. We are delighted to have him in studio, not via satellite, from the great state of Texas or down in D.C. Okay, Steve Bannon. Louie.
By the way, it's great to be had.
Great to have you. Your reaction to Steve Bannon, he's out. What happens now? What's your thoughts on this?
Steve is a real strategist, and despite all the knocks...
Did you meet with him at all?
Oh, yeah, numerous times. In fact, Andrew Breitbart introduced us years ago.
Okay.
And I've known him since then.
Right.
He's a strategist. He's a thinker. And certainly there were problems, but they're going to miss his strategic thinking. Too much
why are they
of the
going to miss him when the administration up to this point has been very muddled? So
yes,
what did he provide when he was there?
Well, unfortunately, it's been an administration that's been totally at odds. There's been so much infighting within the administration, and so I don't know that you're going to see Breitbart that's going to become any more strident than they had. I think now that Steve is back at Breitbart, they'll be much more focused on where he was seeing the biggest problems.
Do you think he'll continue to be, quote-unquote, a loyal soldier to Trump?
To President Trump, but not necessarily to people that are there. I mean, one of the first headlines you saw was talking about the problems with McMaster. So you see a little of that flair. Maybe
also
that
going after Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, saying it's time for the GOP leadership to kick it into high gear. Well, lean on them.
Absolutely should. But if you look back before the election, Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell were totally opposed to the things that got Donald Trump elected. And I told the president back in June, you are being slow-walked. We are being slow-walked. This is exactly what happened in 2005. Dennis Hastert and Bill Frist, you know, they were kind of okay with reforming Social Security, but they really didn't want the heavy lift. They slow-walked everything. Well, we'll get into it by May, and then May, it's, probably July, September, and then, well, surely by the end of the year. We're working.
Nothing's
and then we got to January of '06, and at the annual meeting, it was, okay, here's the new strategy. All you veterans know we're in an even-numbered year. That means you can't do any of these big things. Those are off the table. We'll do those in '07. This year, we'll just do nothing, kind of eke by, save the majority, which will be in jeopardy if we try to do the big things. I got up and said, if you really think there's any chance of losing the majority, this has to be the year we reform Social Security, we reform the tax code, we streamline government. People will love that, even in an even-numbered year. But I was in the minority, and I'm telling you, that's the way some of our leadership is thinking again. We're going to eke by. Heck, the Freedom Caucus was begging in July, bring all 12 appropriations bills to the floor. We'll vote for them the way they are right now. The Appropriations Committee did some really tough, heavy lifting. They did a good job overall, really did.
Nothing happened.
Bring them to the floor. We're going to vote for them, and they brought 4, and they said, well, we think there's a problem. And they kept back the ones that we're going to be able to use as leverage to force others to vote for bad bills.
Let me talk about this one for you. Confederate monuments being taken down nationwide in the wake of Charlottesville, and I understand the University of Texas. What is your feeling on that?
Well, this has been stirred up, and I think the Democrats, I mean, this needs an investigation, Ashley, and the president or through him, the attorney general can appoint an independent counsel. This is so political. This is being driven by forces of evil that are beyond what normal people can think about. How do you have instances of people with KKK shirts and Black Lives Matter getting off the same bus? I mean, what? Somebody is stoking this.
So that's your claim, that these people...
No, it's not my claim. I'm telling you there are witnesses out there. At Charlottesville, there are witnesses that were saying, look, the barricades were funneled, so we had to face each other and become, you know, at odds with each other.
But don't you agree
it's like the governor and the mayor there is a strategy to make race the #1 issue in 2018 and 2020. They think it's their ticket back, but this is going to blow up in their face. We need an investigation as to what happened at Charlottesville, who paid for the different groups to come in, who ordered the funneling of those groups together, who ordered the stand by while the violence goes on. You know, for heaven's sake, Heather Heyer should never have been killed. This should never have been allowed to happen. And either Jeff Sessions or the president himself has got to appoint an independent counsel. Let's get to the bottom of this before these people are allowed to explode this country. This is deadly serious, Ashley.
It is. Louie, thank you so much for being here.
Great to be with you.